Good morning. My faith story is not one of an earth-shattering moment where my life changed instantly, but more of a steady, growing stronger as I grow older sort of a story. And as I heard yours this morning, I went, yep, and then that was it. So if it sounds familiar, we certainly didn't copy each other, but you never know. When we were discussing these stories in our staff meeting, I jokingly said, I was born, I was baptized, and here I am. Hoping that would be enough, but it was not. I was born in February and was baptized at our Methodist church on Easter a couple of months later. I attended Sunday school until I was in 8th grade, UMYF for a year or so after that, and had confirmation classes that were about as informal as they could be. I grew up in a small town and have memories of activities that happened at church, from after-school Halloween parties, turkey dinners, and potlucks. At age 9, or whatever age they decided was the right age, I went through training to be an acolyte and did so faithfully for a number of years. I went to VBS every summer as a kid, and sometimes at the Baptist church too, and was excited to go to church camp several years when I was old enough. My mom, brother, and I attended church regularly, and my dad faithfully on Easter and Christmas Eve. My point is, it was just part of who we were, who I was, how I was raised. It's who my friends were and most people I knew. No one was especially religious, though I had one Catholic friend whose dad built a chapel at the edge of their yard, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was taught about and believed in Jesus, prayed every night and at dinner, and learned a few stories along the way. When I went to college, I remember telling my mom that I was having trouble falling asleep one night and realized I hadn't prayed. I said my prayers and promptly fell asleep. That was a pretty quick and easy lesson for me, and one that I still practice today. The other thing I did in my small college town was that I tried some different churches. Lutheran, because it was close and I had a friend who was Lutheran. Presbyterian, it felt a lot like the Methodist church, and a few others here and there. Finally, one day, I went to the Methodist church, and I distinctly remember feeling like I was home. I don't know if it was just the familiarity of what I grew up with, but it felt right, and like that's where I needed to be. When I left my college town, with my husband in tow, it was hit or miss as far as attending church, though we tried to attend during Advent and always on Christmas Eve and Easter. My husband and I finally joined a church in one of the many towns we lived, and it was a very positive experience for both of us, and we were fairly active. Then we moved again, and again, and again. I don't feel like I was ever away from God, but I definitely had moments of faith lacking along the way. One that stands out especially was when my brother was killed in an accident, a month after finding out he was going to be a father. Then my nephew was born at 24 weeks, and boy, was I questioning God through all of that. Fast forward a few years and I had my children. I knew I wanted them baptized, but not just for the sake of doing it at the closest church along the way. But it was always on my mind and in my heart that they weren't baptized. We said prayers and we had Jesus stories, but it wasn't until we moved to Bentonville in 2008 that I made a true effort to find a church to help raise my kids, to teach them about Jesus, about the Bible, about God's love and forgiveness, about serving others, and, well, you get the picture. But even then, sometimes for me, I was just going through the motions. When I started working at the church in 2010 is when I feel as though I began to change and grow in my faith and take a different interest. Would that have happened in the same way if I hadn't worked here? I don't think so. I think God put me here for a reason. Maybe that was the big nudge I needed, my earth-shattering moment. He knew I was ready, that I would be open and be receptive to him. Then we moved again. But this time I didn't let him go. He led me to a wonderful Bible study group with ladies who were full of faith and encouragement, and a church that fed my spirit during those years. And though it was hard to leave the Grace Girls when we moved back, I realize now it was just another chapter in my story. What I have learned through my current Bible study is that every chapter is important, and if you leave one out, the story is incomplete. Now, obviously, my story isn't finished. I'm just getting to the good part.